Hello and welcome to This Naked Chat, a podcast where six friends from different walks of life come together for honest, unscripted conversations about living alcohol-free and everything that comes with it. We all met at a live event hosted by Annie Grace of This Naked Mind in March of 2024. What started as a mastermind group with the six of us and Annie turned into some really deep friendships, filled with connection, tough conversations, and a lot of laughter. And after a year of growing and learning together, we realized that these conversations might help more than just us. So here we are, no scripts, just real talk. We are incredibly grateful to Annie and This Naked Mind for helping us get this off the ground and for the impact that her work has had on each of our lives. I am Brian, and I am joined by Kori, Agnes, Judi, Jenie, and Sammie. Let's dive in. Woo-hoo. Look at that.
Oh, God.
Uh-oh.
Dogs are in.
Dogs are home. Hi, everybody.
Welcome, welcome.
That will happen to me at some point, too. If someone ever knocks on my door while this is going on, my dog will go batshit. So
I will, I can relocate him. I thought I had done that, but if it's too much of a problem, let me know.
It's fine.
Sorry, y'all.
How is everyone? What is this? Monday?
I'm great. The sun's out for the first time in 11 days, so
Wow.
I am awesome.
Yeah.
Isn't today Santo Domingo? What is today? What is that word I want?
Cinco.
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
Or
I'm
something.
thinking of the holidays. Today is Agnes's birthday. Happy birthday, Agnes.
Is it seriously?
Is it really?
No.
Oh, Jesus! What? I was like, how did we miss that?
But I love Mexican food.
So
Oh, that
that's
There you
counts.
go.
There we go.
That's an excuse to go get that today.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
Well, so
You're
we're
making me
missing we're missing Kori today.
Sob.
She's somewhere traveling. So here's
The
same
magic
hat.
hat. We have the magic hat.
Same hat. Let's see. Here we go. Boop boop boop.
Dun da da da.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think
I'm
it's
sure
really
it is.
pertinent. Yeah.
Yeah.
We only knew what it was.
Well, I'm gonna start talking, and you'll have to guess what the topic is.
Oh, that's fun. Okay.
That would be fun. No, it is hobbies and why our interests outside of work are so important.
Ooh.
That's really good. That's really interesting.
All work and no play makes Judi a dull girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you start to realize that? Like,
Well, you mean when I thought, oh, maybe I should work? You mean then? That's really the opposite of that, right? It's like
Yeah.
all play and no work makes Judi a poor girl.
yeah, good
Right.
point. Yeah, there's a fine line there, I
All
guess.
play and no work makes Judi a, oh my gosh, are we going to be responsible? Question mark.
Yeah.
I think the opposite is true. More than all work and no play. But that's my opinion.
Wait, can you expand on that?
What do you
Talk
mean?
to me like I'm four. The opposite. What state?
Well,
the
instead of all work and no play makes you a dull person, all play and no work makes you irresponsible, makes your life fall apart. You need a balance. Because before I stopped drinking, I worked, but it was a lot of play. I didn't want to be responsible.
Well, that's interesting to me right now with this recent transition of my life, because I'm not working really hardly at all, and I'm playing mostly, and I don't feel irresponsible.
But you're on the other side of it. But your play is responsible play, perhaps.
I don't know if that's. I mean, yes, yes.
More responsible play.
Except for the
You're
part
not
where I
hamming.
should, except for the part where I should be vacuuming instead of weaving. But I think that word irresponsible is what I'm struggling with, I guess, because I think there are plenty of people who don't work who aren't, I wouldn't classify as irresponsible, only because, and I say that because many of them live in my town and they're not they're younger, they're not of retirement age, but they have other benefits in their lives historically that have allowed them not to work, but yet they contribute and they volunteer and they do interesting things. And so
Is that
that's,
play? So is volunteering play or work?
for them, it's play. Because
Well,
they
work
don't,
can be play as well, though, right? My last 19 years has been not work to me. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? We could go on and on and on. I was just being actually sarcastic, not literal. Truth be known.
I mean, too, don't you think? I mean, all of us are probably in this boat where we did do something for many years, and we've almost transitioned to a I don't know what this would be, like a second figuring it out type thing, which seems to be a common thing in life, right? Is you were on this path of what you thought you were supposed to do with your life. At least I was, right? Of like this, go chase the jobs, go chase the money, and that will make everything all right. And at some point, at least for me, it was like, wow, I don't know that was the right path. And then you find this, why I think this is interesting. This is hobbies and our interests outside of work are so important. Is maybe you come to realize that your hobbies and your interests outside of work could actually become your work, potentially. Like if you could somehow combine those, wouldn't that be fun? I don't know if that's right. I'm still trying to figure this out for myself, but
and I did that with
Right.
the coffee shop. That was my jam.
yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
actually with our dog daycare also. Yeah.
I think it certainly contributes for me, because like I really wanted to start doing yoga, and that was just something I'd wanted to do for ages. But obviously, looking into the breath work and all those sorts of things, it's definitely contributed to my mental well-being, which is also then, like if I talk to people and they're not sure, sort of, I would always suggest trying different things. So I said, have you ever tried yoga? I have actually found it really fun, but it's also really good for my mental health. And so I think there's definitely, as you get older, you realize it's not just about work. You haven't got to be on that treadmill the whole time. And actually, just because you want to do something which is enjoyable doesn't mean that it's also not really good, and it can be added into, the whole idea of your well-being, really.
Yeah, well, I think that just having hobbies and all of that, I think it's just important to have a connection. You're connecting to usually other people. I think that is really important. Like it's changing up. It's that whole variety that Annie talks about. Annie Grace, This Naked Mind, phenomenal woman. So
Thanks to
I think
Annie
that,
and Olipop for
there you
sponsoring
go.
our podcast.
Yeah, but that is like one of the, it's like one of the human needs. We need to have that variety. So that's where it's like outside of work is very structured. So outside of work, having those hobbies and that play, that's where you get all this other excitement and connection and everything else.
And balance. I mean, it's
And
a balance.
balance. Yeah.
I think this is exactly what I've been, I'd say, struggling with for the past couple of years, is finding this like balance between work and doing something that is purely for joy. It seems to be really tough to actually, I'm going to say, make a living doing something that's just pure joy. I'm sure it exists out there. I know it does. I haven't found that balance. So it for me, I think I don't know if I talked about this with you all last week or when, but like how I used to chase or strive for, career success or money. I'm almost now striving for something completely different, which is like this, what is this answer to my life? Like what am I supposed to be doing with myself, where it all just connects? And I don't know that exists. Like I've been striving for something that that is maybe just a here thing. Like can you just be, present with yourself and happy, and then the work and the hobbies and all that stuff kind of will take care of itself if you trust that process. Does that make sense with anyone?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Judi, you're on mute, or Jenie.
Thank you. Sorry, dog barking. That is very resonant for me. And part of it for myself, the first time I retired, which was a decade ago, more than a decade ago, I was feeling guilty that I could.
Yeah.
And so I had that, perhaps a similar sense of emptiness isn't the right word, maybe dis-ease, just discomfort and dis-ease about feeling like I should be doing something, and what is that thing that I should be doing. And it took a long time and a lot of iterations, and I'm having a little bit of that resurge now. And when it really resurged, I mean, this is familiar. God bless it. I'm so sorry. This is familiar territory, because when I quit medicine in 2019, then March 2020 came, and I'm like, I have skills, I have knowledge, I'm critically care trained, and I'm sitting on my hands at home, right? And that I couldn't ignore. So I got a job with the CDC for 2.5 years, and I'm very, very, very glad I did. But that gnawing I should be doing something overpowered, my, yay, I get to weave and I get to write.
Do you think, though, Jenie, speaking to that, do you think it just triggers in me, you have gifts, and the only way we can to really have fulfillment and really have authenticity in our own selves is to carry out our gifts
and share them?
Yeah.
No, we have,
because we can have gifts, but they're not really gifts till we give them.
Yeah.
Right?
We have, and that's what got me to the CDC, actually, was this very strong core belief that if you can, you need to share it. And I was raised with that ethos. And so I don't know if this speaks to what you've been feeling the last couple of years, Brian, but it is something I've traveled, and it's starting to kind of whisper to me a little bit again. But I think it's just because it's a familiar conversation, and I've been there, done that, and I'm a whole lot more comfortable in my own skin now, and with what I am offering to the world. Anyway, that was long-winded, but
no, I think that makes sense. And to Judy's point, and I think, Judi, what I was actually looking for is, what the hell is my gift? I think that's what I was actually searching for, someone to tell me, or I did mushrooms this week, guys, to try to figure this out, of hey, just something, tell me, what is the gift that I'm supposed to share? And I've almost come around recently to a fact of, I'll say this one way. So people will say the first half of your life is serve yourself, and the second is serve others. I almost think that's switched for me. And now I'm being if I just take care of myself and serve myself, it will in turn turn it around, if that makes sense. So my gift would be figuring out, not figuring out, but just living as who I am, and doing these things. I don't know how to put that, because I'm still trying to figure this out.
So if we want to jump into, the first part of our life is about us, and the second part is giving out, right? This is just my perception in the work I've done. If in the first part of our life we've had some kind of trauma that stops or stunts our emotional growth, we're not going to have that possibility, are we, of doing that work, of serving ourselves so we can then serve to others. So when we stop when we finally come to terms with, okay, time to, or if we're drinking and we stop drinking, or if we're doing drugs and we stop doing drugs, and we start to reconnect with life, then we have to catch up, right? That emotional development, we have to catch up. So maybe what you're feeling right now is I'm just catching up.
I agree, 100%.
I don't know. I'm just
No, well, yes.
It's just a guess.
I think you're right.
I've been through it. I mean, and every day I think I thought I caught up, and then something happens, and like,
For sure.
I haven't caught up at all. Yeah.
I've said that so many times of like, I thought I don't know, figured something grand out, and then I'm like, oh, never mind. That was just another piece of the puzzle. But I do think it's interesting though, because, you know, back to kind of this topic of hobbies and our interests outside of work, I do think so much of the things that if you can kind of trace back to those things that you used to enjoy, that you let slide, there's something that lives in those sometimes, you know? Like for me recently, it's been like I opened a gym for a reason, and it goes back to kind of that community thing that was brought up earlier, Agnes. Of like I did it because I needed this community that I wasn't getting, and now that we've shut that down, I kind of I've been coming back to that a lot more.
It's interesting to me that if I think about it, and this just occurred to me, and I don't know if this is true for anyone else, when I've been in those periods in my life where I'm like, oh God, I am not having enough good fun, you know, not the bad kind. I always seem to end up back into things I super plus enjoyed when I was in grade school.
Huh.
I always seem to end up back there with whatever it is I'm puttering in. And I hadn't thought of that till just now, Brian. Something you said sparked that in me. But I wonder if that's true for anyone else.
I have been playing a lot more tag with my neighbors. No.
That's interesting. Seriously, though, I went for a walk the other day. Do you guys play hopscotch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what it was. We were walking along and the sun was shining, and we used to just get a bit of chalk and draw it on the concrete, you know, in the playground or whatever. And I just had this, and I did turn around and say to him, do you know, I've got a real overwhelming urge to just draw a hopscotch with a piece of chalk and play hopscotch. So that's random, isn't it? I don't know where that came from.
But I mean, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but
I mean,
isn't that our inner child that we're just playing?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's
right?
exactly it.
And
You know, Jenie, even to your pickleball thing, right? Like, I mean, that is just play, right? If you can let it go and let the competition, which is hard for me.
Me too.
And just you're like, you're right, Judi. It's just like.
And that's the lesson for me, is let all that adult shit go and just remember why you used to love hitting a tennis ball against the wall of the garage on a hot summer day, right?
Yeah. And you didn't need any drink or drugs or anything to enjoy that.
Exactly.
You know, that didn't.
And Sammie, to your point, the coffee shop has had a hopscotch tournament every summer. I'm just saying.
Isn't that interesting though? Like you say, and maybe that is that we get so caught up, you know, especially those with children. I could see how this would happen to where you get to where your day is filled with you work, and then you have all of your children's stuff, and there's very little time sometimes for play for yourself because you're taking care of others your whole life. Yeah, I think there's.
And I think there's something
there
to be said. Certainly for me, I was talking to my sister the other day, and I think, I mean, both perimenopausal age at the moment, and I think that we were talking about that. It is that you sort of, as a woman and a mum and a sister and a daughter, that you give for all those years, and it's almost like something sort of happens, and you think, actually, I'm gonna have a bit of me time. I need to start actually doing what I want to do, because now they're all safe, they're okay,
And if you don't, that leads you to a pretty heavy crash, right? Like that's that midlife crisis, or you know, whatever it is for y'all. Of like, that was my identity, and I need to, and now I need to find my new one again, or maybe reconnect with who I was.
I think everybody though could have. Couldn't you have a midlife crisis without children?
Oh, I think I did. I mean, I have a full arm tattoo sleeve, Judi, and I started a CrossFit gym, for God's sakes. Yeah.
Yeah, mine was when I quit the first time. Every time I open my mouth, he barks.
Yeah.
Other times it's quiet. Yeah, the first time I quit ish, that was definitely a midlife crisis, and I do not have children. So,
You quit what? Your
medicine.
job, your work? Yeah, medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I cut way back, which was basically quitting. Not quite, but basically.
I mean, that's why I think like this, we've talked about this, where this like midlife isn't necessarily, if you can view this kind of like Sammie was talking about, as not a crisis, but like this opportunity to be like, oh, I'm gonna do me again. That's a little more powerful.
And
Agnes, what were you going to say there?
Giving yourself permission, isn't it? It's allowing yourself, because it feels really uncomfortable when you've not done that for so many years, to go, oh my gosh, am I actually allowed to have a bit of me time and do what I want to do? And I think for me as well, I've realised that just working harder and harder and harder doesn't make me better at whatever it is I'm trying to do. And actually, if I just take some time out and just go and do something completely new or something that I've enjoyed from years ago, it opens up more space, and then I can focus better when I actually do the work.
So back in the days when, excuse me, y'all were drinking, etc., and presumably probably still doing some hobbies then, one thing that happened to me during those times is if I was engaging in something that was a hobby, particularly like gardening was a big one in those days, I would get so profoundly angry if I got interrupted from doing that by work. So profoundly irritated that it almost became not worth it to do the hobby. So I'm curious to know if that happened with anyone else.
Well, yeah, that darn work need to pay the bills does interfere with your personal life. Yeah,
I mean,
it kind of
that's
does.
the hard balance, right? Yeah. You're like, why? That's the whole like, why can't I just do this? Why do I have to work? Like, I think, boy, I mean, that's what I'm really struggling with now.
And my resentment of the job when I was drinking and getting pulled away from that which I was trying to do to take a break from the work thing, my resentment was, a fucking volcano. It was just always there, which then, of course, fed into my resentment of the job day to day. That grew over time because I was being stolen away from these other things that I enjoyed doing. Music, theater, gardening, skiing, blah, 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 any of those things. So I'm just curious if others had a similar trajectory when they were drinking.
I think for me with my drinking, I just got less. I did less and less anyway. I
agree.
So I wasn't resentful of work pulling it away. It was the alcohol pulling it away.
That's the first thing I thought of, is like, once I took, I think, probably my first breaks, and I was so bored, I tried to go back and think of some of those things that either I used to enjoy or that I thought I always wanted to do. So that's where, like, some of the things you mentioned, Jenny, like I did some improv. I took painting classes, and it was kind of like this, again, I see it now as kind of like this search for like these things that I like, I don't know, what does bring me joy nowadays, and how do I balance that? Like you're saying, like, how I can't do it all the time. I can't fill my day with all of the joy because I have to bring home the bacon, like Judi was saying. So how do I create this, I don't know, not perfect day, but like this ideal kind of day to balance both?
Agnes, what were you going to say some time ago and we all interrupted you?
Oh, that's okay. I don't even remember what it was. I'm just, I'm listening. I'm listening in. My experience was completely different than all of that. So I'm just like, oh yeah, see, I had to raise my brothers. So there was no joy. There was no hobbies. There was no nothing. So I never had that. So I don't understand what that looks like. And that's what I'm trying to figure out now that I have. And then it's like, raise the kids, move out young, have kids young, start a business young, everything's young.
Yeah.
You know, and now everyone's raised, and this is where that whole midlife, and then it's these labels. And these labels are so uncomfortable for me because it's like, I've never done that. So, you know, and it's almost like you feel resentful towards others. I do. It's like you got to play sports. You got to do all this. Guess what? I didn't. I had to cook and clean every night and do homework with my brothers. So now I'm getting emotional. I don't know what that feels like. So now as an adult, it feels uncomfortable because we label adults are you're supposed to work. So you're having fun, you're being silly. Well, it's first of all very uncomfortable for me to do that because I've never done that. I'm learning how to be that way instead of being serious all the time. But I feel that label because adults are work and serious and responsibilities and all of this. So it's like I'm stuck. So it's like midlife. Yeah, of course it's midlife. I don't know. But again, why do we have to label it? You know what I mean? Like, and that's where, it feels very different from what you guys are all saying. For me, it's just like, I don't know. It's very different.
I think that's so interesting too, that you're hearing the same things from people that Judi mentioned or Jedi mentioned, and I feel like, the people that are like, well, shouldn't you be working? You're playing pickleball and it's 2 p.m. And I'm like, yeah, but like, such those are voices like it's almost like we care about what other people are saying about us still. And to your point, Agnes, you're like, fuck, I've never got to do this, and I deserve this, in a sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm able to do it. I'm financially okay to be able to do it. I could do all these things. I'm not needed, so I can, but it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable because here you are in a 50-year-old's body wanting to be 10 or 12, like, it's like, it just feels weird, especially if you've never done that and you're starting to do this at the age of 50. It's like, it's a hard transition.
And do you think there too, like kind of what I was talking about earlier, Agnes, is since all you'd ever known is to almost achieve, and strive, that you feel like you have to still, even when you start something new, like say, hell, use the pickleball example. If Agnes started pickleball, it means she has to become a professional pickleball player, or it's not good enough. You can't just go be. And that's the part that I'm struggling with in all of this. It's just like, it's to Judy's point. If you've never kind of figured that out, it's really hard to just sit with yourself.
Yeah.
But it's also okay to give yourself permission to go back and say, you know what? So what? I want to be 10 years old. So what?
Yeah.
Be 10.
Yeah.
Go play hopscotch with Sammie. It's good.
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff, right? I mean, that we have to... I have found a practice that when I'm upset about something, or when I would have clients upset about something, I would say, how old do you feel right now? How old do you feel right now? And usually they could go back and tell me, I feel 10, or I feel 8, or I feel something. And it's like, all right, well, what happened that interfered with you being able to be a kid? All right, what did you really want to do instead of that? And people like ponder or whatever. I wanted to do this. Well, all right, what does an adult version of this look like?
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Right? You can't go, I want to play Tonka trucks, or I want to go play Barbies or something. Well, can an adult do that? Sure you can, but are people going to give you a little ration? You go, maybe.
Or a lot.
Yeah, right? But what's an adult version of playing Tonka trucks?
Y'all, this is why Legos is making $1 bazillion,
Right.
because there are all these Lego kits for adults.
Right. And then look at coloring, adult coloring.
There it is. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, there's adult
long
coloring
before
books.
adult coloring came out, I had a friend, and we would go out on a Saturday, get us course, we'd get a big old bottle of Burgundy. But we would go out and get brand new color books, a big thing of Crayola 64 crayons, and go home and make a delicious, either one of our houses, make a delicious meal or something to snack on all day and just color. Listen to music and color. That's what we did.
Did you get to do that when you were young?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes, when you're young, if you have you can have the physical stuff, but if you're intellectually or emotionally in a different place because of whatever's going on with you, it prevents real engagement with that. So I'm of the theory we keep doing things until we figure out it's okay, or we keep doing things until we learn how it's supposed to be in our lives. Right, Sammie? What do you think about that?
I just had visions of it. We used to have these colouring with the velvet bits. Did you used to have that? It would be velvet.
Oh, yeah.
And then you colour in between them. And me and my sister used to spend hours doing that, colouring in like all the pictures. I think I definitely still have quite a lot of inner child that comes out of me, and I'm realising that more and more at the moment. I know. And it's funny because even when I was away recently with my daughter, and we went to like a hot springs thing, and there was one bit of it that had slides, and she went, presumably you're going on the slides. I was like, yeah. So it's just, I don't know. For me, I just realise more and more that it's such the playfulness side of it. It's just so important, you just get pulled into the whole seriousness of being an adult and being responsible, and feeling like you have to do all the time. And actually, if you could take a step back from it and just go, this isn't actually what I want my existence to be about. I don't want to just work, not enjoy my family, not enjoy those moments. I was watching birds the other day, and I remember, I think Kori said this before about, are you old if you start getting into what birds there are out in the garden and things like that?
Yeah.
There's part of it, just when you grow up, you look at things differently, don't you? When I was halfway through a couple of bottles of wine, I'm not going to care what birds flying overhead or in the garden, So there's also a clarity that wasn't there before.
So one of the first, actually it was the first date I went on with my husband. He took me on a walk through a nature sanctuary that I had never been to in the town that we both lived in. And he's 20 years older than I am, so God help me, he's going to be 80 this summer. And on that date, I said I was kind of hungry, and I had meant to bring an apple, but I forgot it in his car. And literally at that moment, we walked by an apple tree, and it was the appropriate time of year, and he climbed the tree.
Wow.
He climbed the tree and picked an apple for me. And he still,
Sex was had that day. Right there.
Not for a long time, dude.
Okay.
But he still, last fall, he was climbing the apple trees in our yard, picking apples for me. And he loves it. And he's 5. When he's scaling an apple tree, he is 5. He is a 5-year-old boy. And all the other times during our days together, he is very serious, very practical, very methodical, very grown up, very all of the things. But give the man an apple tree, and and I knew that day this was going to be the guy. And
that was your first date. Sorry, that was a bad joke that I made.
No, I like it, but it took a while.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I love that Agnes brought that up, though, because and then Judi, to your point of because you can see that in those things of having a hard time connecting with the things that brought you joy might be a matter of that, because back when you were younger, the things that you were doing were to actually, for me, now that I'm thinking about all this, it was all about, I was an only child. So I was always seeking groups and communities and things like that, because I couldn't have the fun on my own, right? And I still see that now in my adult life. I still search for those types of things. And I'm finding more and more that points back to me not, I don't know what that word would be, of not being able to just sit and be happy with myself, maybe something like that, I don't know.
Yeah, you're learning to do that.
Yeah.
That's what you're learning to do now.
Right.
Well, we weren't born on an island, right?
Right.
We were born with people. We are social beings because human. So whether we feel complete in and of ourselves is one thing, but whether we want to be in community or not is another. And we weren't born on an island.
It's like, to your point and Agnes's point, like, to people that we talk to, like, I think we started this conversation thinking that everyone could just trace back to a moment in their childhood that brought around joy. And, the clients that you've worked with, Judi, and then Agnes, even yourself, have a hard time pointing back to something like that. So it's actually discovering for the first time, what are your hobbies? What are you interested in? Because you've never had the space to even explore that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, I can see now, even for myself, I would gravitate towards the people that were drinkers because that's easy. So that's a hobby, right? Drinking. So it's all the same, right? So it wouldn't be the sports people. It wouldn't be the book clubs, because then, that's the intellect and everything, but just your regular drinking. Okay, I could do that. I'd pick those out fast and pick them over any other group.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I did. I found bars
Yeah.
because that was my community, I thought.
It's interesting in my professional life, and I'm seeing it even now in my little burnout group on Facebook. There are docs, and I've known many, who work well into their 70s and even beyond that, and when they perhaps shouldn't. And a predominant reason for that is they have no idea what they'll do.
Mm-hmm.
Because that whole everything that you're saying has never existed in their orbit. And so they don't know how to have an outside interest besides learning, academia, practicing, charting, worrying, all of it. They literally don't know what to do. And so out of fear, they keep working. And so that's also interesting as I'm sitting here thinking about that same idea, but at a little different end of the spectrum with physicians, because I see that more and more now.
Well, I mean, I saw that, when you just said that too, of like, when sometimes we put off our hobbies and interests sometimes for so long, we think that, when we retire, that's when we're going to take up this whatever, this big hobby or this big, and in what I've experienced in my life with my family is they never made it to that point. So they basically put off this happiness throughout their life. And even if they did get there, they wouldn't have been maybe happy enough or not healthy enough to enjoy those things. Where now, God, it's almost like a take advantage of it now if you can. But I know not everyone can.
Yeah,
I know not everyone can.
But that's the balance, right? That's the balance of work and play simultaneously now. So because if you wait to play in the end, like to your point, right?
Well, and my brother, my live brother is a PGA pro, right? And he made the practical choice early in his career of staying on as a club pro because that's a lot safer a career, financially speaking, and he's a sensible guy. And he did that. How many rounds of golf do you suppose he played in 30 years of being a club pro and teaching and running tournaments and doing all of it? And the very last thing he wanted to do on a day off was be at the club. So now that he is retired, he's playing again, but he's not getting the enjoyment out of it because, frankly, he's not as good as he used to be.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And, so there's that, too, to your point, Brian, about putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, because he was so consumed by his career and fabulously successful. But he got into that business because that was his passion. That was his fire. And I mean, so few rounds of golf over 30 years that he played for enjoyment and not for, schmoozing with a board member or whatever. So that's another side of it. When, Judi, you're talking about finding this balance, it is such a tricky walk, isn't it? Such a tricky walk.
Yeah, because it's almost like, you've got to separate them a little bit. So you got to have those hobbies to be hobbies. Don't make them into work. Otherwise, it will consume you and then it becomes work. So now you're taking away from it.
Let's start to wrap that up. Because that just hit me. I think I've been trying to do that, and I did believe that was true. Is like you find your gift or your passion or whatever, and just turn that around, and make it into this hobby. And I'm finding that I have found that to be really hard. That once I sit in there for the whole time, it no longer becomes as fun, and that scares me. So I've ruined some things.
Well, I think for me, the takeaway is that it doesn't matter. It seems like, from my perspective, that everyone is seeking those younger days or the lack of, or whatever they were to begin with. But that play, everybody wants it. So it doesn't matter. So get rid of the labels. Who cares?
I think for me, my takeaway is just, again, one of such abject gratitude, because I have chased my passions over my adult life. I have. I've been lucky enough to be able to do that, and lucky enough to walk away, not entirely linearly, but lucky enough to walk away when those passions no longer served me. And that, I do completely recognize that is a freedom and such a luxury. So I'm just really grateful. But that word balance that Judi brought us to in the opening that's really fundamental.
You think maybe I've been coming back a lot to, like, and this has come up a lot in this of just presence now. So like maybe so much of the piece that we started talking to is going back to a time. I used to be this, or I used to love this, and maybe it's more about just figuring out what it is now. Like the birds or the clouds, you're saying, the hopscotch and the things in this present moment versus trying to go back to a time or even ahead to a future.
I think
I agree.
for me, what I've realised is that I've actually come to a place where I am absolutely okay with doing as many playful and joyful things as I can. I no longer have the guilt. I used to just have to be so, just had to work and had to earn the money, I had to look after everybody, and that was all my narrative was all the time. And now I'm like, that's not how it is anymore, and I'm good with that, actually. So there's a lightness now that I have never experienced before, and I think part of that has come with some age, because I've got more wisdom around it, which you don't have when you're younger, but also because now I'm really at a place where I don't need to be governed and restrained by rules and labels and all that crap, really.
And you can just see it. I mean, it's just like, we've all seen it from you.
Put that woman on a hot pink jungle swing. Watch her go.
I mean, you saw, I was on the boat 2 days ago on the, my partner guy's new little boat, his rib. Yeah, and that was just hilarious. Obviously, we ended up being towed at one point as well because the ending cut out. that's what you got to do, isn't it? But even that was funny, Yeah, life's just it. You realise as well, I think, as you get older, that time goes so fast, and I don't want to spend my time being boring, I suppose, in my head. So I'm going to make the most of it.
So my takeaway is about perspective and authenticity, right? because as we develop, as to Sammie's point, as we mature and develop emotionally, develop intellectually, develop spiritually, we come to a different sense of who we are authentically, right? And in the beginning, we're judging because we have to get it right. We have to abide by everybody else's whatever says who we're supposed to be. And are there rules? Yeah, life, you have to have some common truth to function and get along with everybody. And there is truth, but how you connect with truth without judging yourself, right? And how you get, and your perspective on situations in your life, right? We can look at situations now and look back and say, oh, that really sucked, I didn't get to do these things, or that really sucked because now I can't do these things because I'm stuck, I have to work and pay the bills. And I mean, we can look at all of that, or we can do like an Annieism, and we get to, right? We get to learn all these things now that we maybe didn't see before because our perspective was immature. So now as we mature, our perspective gets bigger and broader. And as we mature, we really don't care, right, Sammie? It's like, I'm just going to go play today because the rest of you can just do whatever you need to do. But I need to relax today.
And the world doesn't fall apart. I've realized the world doesn't fall apart if I take time out and go and play.
Right.
And I'm in a better space, so that's better for the people around me.
That's a perfect wrap up, Judi. I feel like I leave a therapy session to come here and then have another one because that was so good. I'm like, I needed this conversation in my own life, which has been interesting for a few of these, hasn't it? It's beautiful. Thank y'all. Hey, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If something we said resonated, made you laugh, or made you think, we'd love it if you share it with someone who might need it too. And if you're curious about going alcohol-free or just ready to feel more connected to yourself, check out This Naked Mind. Annie's work brought us all together, and we're so grateful for the impact it's had. On that note, a big thank you to Annie Grace and This Naked Mind for making this podcast possible. We'll see you next time on This Naked Chat.